this non-judgmental bullshit, it's the excuse of people who know that they are doing something wrong. Don't fall for that. Don't fall for somebody who says, oh, you shouldn't judge. Fuck that noise. Judge. Judge harshly, but fairly and impartially, and always with the humility to realize that you yourself could commit that sin. A couple of days ago, I put up a post called Storytime, and I related an incident I was involved in. An incident involving myself and a woman named H. And there's no other way to put it. Both of us acted despicably. I mean, morally, we didn't have a leg to stand on. It was just really despicable, both of our behaviors. Now, I related that story because I wanted to get to this video that I'm doing right here, which is a larger point, a much more important point. And it was very interesting because when I put up that post, I was very interested in the comments. And the comments basically fell in two camps. There was one camp, a majority, that said that I was just a scumbag, that I was just an awful, awful person. That I was an awful person, and I actually noticed that I lost a lot of subscribers because of the post. Well, you know, those are the breaks. But a lot of people thought that I was just morally despicable, and that this proved that I was an evil man, evil incarnate. On the other hand, there was a group of people who basically said, oh, I'm not going to judge, you know, and oh, you must have had your reasons, and oh, you know, people are frail, and, you know, excusing my behavior, my objectively despicable behavior, because objectively it was despicable, no question about it. So there was that camp of people who sort of like, you know, no judgment. Now, I'm here to tell you that you should be judgmental, especially on moral issues. You should most definitely be judgmental, and you should pass moral judgments, but it comes with a caveat, a warning, a limitation, call it what you will. You see, the line between good and evil does not separate people. It's not like the line runs down, right? And there are some people caught on the good side and some people caught on the bad side. These people over here are good and these over there are bad. Doesn't work that way. The line between good and evil, that which is wrong and that which is righteous, that line runs right through the middle of every man's heart. I'm cribbing that from my hero, Solzhenitsyn. And it's very true, it's very wise. See, every human being has the capacity to do great good and great evil. And sometimes those people whom we consider just really despicable act in ways that are generous and good and kind. Just as the people whom we respect and admire and adore, they act in ways sometimes that are just wrong. But the thing is, see, we live in the world where we should be making judgments, and we should have the self-confidence to make judgments, moral judgments most especially. We should definitely have the self-confidence to say, this is good and this is bad. We have to have that self-confidence as individuals and as a people. Because if we don't have that self-confidence to be able to say what is good and what is evil, we will be overwhelmed. We will be overwhelmed by evil. Because you see, human nature is such that we prefer to do evil things because they make us happy. Look at the story time. It pleased H and myself to act as we did, and it caused enormous damage. It was just truly despicable. But our own selfishness led us to act as we did. Would we have acted differently had there been people disapproving, vehemently disapproving of our actions? Perhaps. We'll never know now, will we? Because we live in a society that has rescinded the notion of moral judgments. Don't be like that. Make the moral judgments. Decide those actions that are good and those actions that are evil. But always temper your judgment with the notion that, see, that line between what is good and evil runs through the heart of every person. And that person could be you committing that heinous act. So you have to temper your judgment. What I'm saying is, judge, but judge humanely. That doesn't mean backing off of a moral judgment and saying, this is fucking wrong. The story time I related, that was fucking wrong. There's no other way to put it. Does that make me an evil person, who should be flung to hell? I don't think so. I've done a lot of very good things, very kind things. Sometimes I've carried out kindnesses that have cost me quite a bit, but that were worth it to my sense of self as a man. And have I done awful things? Sure. A lot of things worse than what I related in that video. See? But you see, you have to judge the sin, not the sinner. Towards the sinner, I hate to get all St. Augustine on you, but you have to be compassionate to the individual. And you have to recognize that you yourself could fall for the temptation that you are vilifying. See? There's nothing wrong with vilifying something that is truly wrong. For instance, this whole notion of pedophilia that's going on in our society. We have to vilify. We have to draw the line. We have to fight against it. Absolutely. But at the same time, we have to be compassionate and understand that sometimes some of these pedophiles are sick fucks. Yes, they are sick fucks, but they are fucked up and they have to be somehow helped. Awful as that may sound. I'm just using the pedophilia case is just a hypothetical for this conversation, because you have to understand why somebody is doing something. If you understand something, that doesn't mean that they're off the hook. You can understand somebody and still find what they did despicable, okay? But it is important to understand them, okay? Is what I'm saying making any sense? I hope so. Another thing about judgment, which is very important. You see, if you ever make a judgment and you find yourself hot under the collar, stop. And ask yourself why you are getting so emotionally invested and pumped up or wound up by something that you witness. For instance, in the video I did, right, the story time, there's this one guy, he must have written, I don't know, a dozen comments. He was just like typing away, saying that I was like this evil bastard shithead, and he was just arguing with people and going comments here and there all over the place, right? Why? Obviously, the story triggered him. And he made his moral judgment, which is perfectly fine. But why was he so hot under the collar? It's something that you should ask yourself if it ever happens to you. For good or bad, by the way, okay? If you want to vilify somebody or praise them, see? If you feel too emotionally invested in the vilification or the praising of that person, then you should stop and look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself why. Because true judgment is dispassionate. True judgment, the real balanced judgment, is without passion, without prejudice. It just looks at the situation and formulates a judgment. And you who are formulating this judgment in this dispassionate way, you're not angry, you're not upset, you're not anything. See? But if you are angry, if you are upset, or by the flip side, if you're too enthusiastic, almost hero worshipping, then you have to ask yourself why. See? Because often as not, what will happen is that the thing that you are judging, it's not that thing. It's that that thing has triggered something within you. And you have to look inside of yourself and find out what it was. Why is it that this thing is driving you to this emotional reaction? Emotions, what are they? A subjective feeling. A subjective feeling that sometimes is triggered by reasons that are too obscure for us to realize at that particular moment. But we should not, because of it, ignore it. And you have to look into yourself and figure out, why is this winding me up? That guy who did all those comments about my Storytime video, I have my suspicions, of course. I think that perhaps, I feel that maybe he himself is afraid that that will happen with his woman. Or perhaps he himself did something similar and feels guilty about it or angry with himself about. There are all sorts of reasons, but that level of anger, that level of emotional engagement on some random story that some random YouTuber put out there in some random video. There's a reason there. Something was there. Look into yourself whenever you find yourself too angry with somebody. But to finish this off, never be afraid of judgment. Okay? Our society says don't judge, that you shouldn't be judgmental. That's bullshit. That is total bullshit. You have to be judgmental. In this world, absolutely. You have to be judgmental because what are judgments? They are standards. A judgment is it's basically taking a ruler and measuring the behavior. Measuring the behavior and looking to see if it measures up or if it is lacking. Now, if it measures up, great. If it's lacking, well, whose fault is that? The person who measures the behavior or the person who committed the behavior? See? This non-judgmental bullshit, it's the excuse of people who know that they are doing something wrong. Don't fall for that. Don't fall for somebody who says, oh, you shouldn't judge. Fuck that noise. Judge. Judge harshly, but fairly and impartially, and always with the humility to realize that you yourself could commit that sin. Because the line separating good from evil runs through your heart too.